Yeah, so I don't know how much we want to get into the plot, but I mean the plot is actually kind of simple, in that two people decide to go assassinate a presidential candidate, the president, the presidential candidate who's running against Robert Redford,
Right.
and the one is a girl who the one is a girl who was kind of abused by her father.
Yeah, she was kind of like. I mean, her dad was obviously very crazy and a prepper and, like, trained her.
Right.
So there is that trauma, so she kind of clings on to someone else, like a fatherly figure.
Right. So then that actually kind of paves the way toward my next point, which is that she makes friends with Will Myerson, who is a fictional comic book creator in this world. He makes pirate comic books, because this is another thing that wasn't in the Watchmen movie.
Mm-hmm.
But so in the world of Watchmen, because superheroes exist, comic books don't tell the story of superheroes. They tell the story of pirates,
Mm-hmm.
because they figured nobody would want to read about superheroes because you can just watch the news
Right.
and learn about superheroes. So here's where it gets kind of tricky. Will Myerson is a fictional comic book creator, but he was very not loosely based on Steve Ditko, which Tom King has even said, like in interviews, he definitely completely based him on Steve Ditko. Now the other thing, well,
I mean, do you want to say spoilers?
no, because this isn't really a spoiler. So, if you guys don't know who Steve Ditko is, I'm trying to figure out how much I want to go in detail about Steve Ditko.
Okay.
So, the thing he's most famous for is he co-created Spider-Man and Doctor Strange with Stan Lee, of course. For the purposes of this comic book, the important thing is that he created a character called Mr. A, who led to a character called The Question, who in turn led to a character named Rorschach.
Right.
So, the other thing you need to know about Steve Ditko is that he was a major league weirdo. I mean, he was like completely. He was. First and foremost, he was a follower of the teachings of Ayn Rand. Which, if you don't know anything about Ayn Rand, her philosophy essentially is what her philosophy basically has led to the modern Republican Party. It's the idea that you should never do anything to help people. The idea that
Or ask for help.
right, or ask for help.
It's the hyper individualism we see today.
Right.
So.
So now, the weird thing about this comic book is, because the Watchmen universe is a mirror universe, the Will Myerson, the Steve Ditko equivalent, is not conservative. He's a liberal.
Right.
Which, I don't know. I'm not going to lie to you. This is the part where it kind of gets tricky for me. I'm not sure why the kid, the assassin, I'm not sure why she switches over from being conservative to being liberal. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm gonna blame myself for these issues, and say that I'm just not smart enough to understand parts of this comic book.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely parts of it where I had to reread it, and parts of it where I was like, okay, I'm not smart enough. I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah, so I only read it once. I kind of would like to reread it just because it's so complicated. It kind of reminded me of that episode of Community Do you remember the episode of Community where they're doing the conspiracy theories, and nobody can keep track of who's stabbing who in the back? It kind of reminded me of that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was very heavy, and I probably won't read it again. There's just a lot of like heavy subject matter and sort of bleakness in parts of it, and I was just, yeah. I'm a sensitive soul.
So back to what we were talking about with Will Myerson and Steve Ditko. So the weird thing is, obviously that was an allegory where Will Myerson is supposed to be a stand-in for Steve Ditko. The other thing that's weird about this comic book is that there are real comic book creators who appear in the comic book, and like he doesn't come up with fictitious names for him. Like, I mean, Frank Miller is a character in this comic book. Another one was Otto Binder or Otto Binder. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. So that's a real comic book creator. The thing he's most famous for is he created Supergirl.
Right. Yeah, I was very surprised when Frank Miller showed up.
So are you ready for the crazy thing? That story, when Frank Miller meets Otto Binder, happened in real life.
Oh, really?
So Otto Binder or Otto Binder, however you pronounce his name, his daughter was killed at an early age, and I guess he was really, really mourning the death of his daughter, and some comic book fans showed up at his house just to say, like, hey, look, man, I'm really, really sorry that this happened. And apparently he asked them if they wanted to sit in on a seance. And one of these comic book fans was Frank Miller.
Holy crap.
Is that weird or what?
That's insane, is what that is.
So my... Sorry, I keep bumping the table. So I guess my question with that is, I mean, it's interesting enough, but why is it in this comic book?
Yeah. There were definitely things in this comic book where I was like, wait, what? Why is this here?
So, a few more things that I wanted to mention about the comic book. There's a scene where the presidential candidate calls the detective into the bathroom to talk to him while he's going to the bathroom, and that was actually taken. That was something that Lyndon Johnson used to like to do. Lyndon Johnson was a weird freaking dude.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, so Lyndon Johnson liked to be sitting on the toilet when he had meetings because he felt like it intimidated people and set them off like balance.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, he's not... So I don't think Turley, the presidential candidate, is necessarily like a one-to-one like reference to Johnson.
Right.
But he took that from him. And something else that's really, really cool is, I haven't done this, but apparently you can go back to... There's a scene where Turley is fighting in Vietnam with the comedian, and apparently you can go back to Watchmen and pick out which character is Turley, which is pretty cool.
That is cool. Yeah. The toilet scene was like, that was a little jarring for me.
I mean, that's why he did it.
Yeah.
I mean, it had that effect on people in real life.
Gross. But anyways.
Yeah, so I don't think we're going to get into the ending.
No, you just have to experience that for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's enough said.
Yeah.
You guys, I think we've given you guys enough to decide whether or not you want to read Rorschach.
Yeah.
Oh, I should mention the artwork is freaking amazing.
No, the artwork is really, really good.
So supposedly that was one of the reasons why Tom King wanted to do a Rorschach comic book, because apparently he went to the editors at DC and he was like, "Yeah, I've got this idea for a presidential um, like assassination type drama," and they were like, "Okay, well, if you don't have a major character in it, we're probably just gonna bury it, and we're not gonna like hire like a really good artist to work on it." And so part of the reason why he added Rorschach was so that they would hire like a grade A talent.
Clever. Very smart.
Yeah, check out Rorschach. Check it out if you're a Watchmen fan. Check it out if you're not a Watchmen fan. And I think maybe not next time, but maybe in the next 2 or 3 months, I'll talk Angie into reading Watchmen.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyways, have a good night. Bye, guys.